Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of college football coast to coast. I am joined by my co host Tyler. I am Jacob. We're back for week number 10 for our previews and our picks. A lot has happened on and off the field with a
Yeah.
lot of big name programs over the last week. Some teams that we probably thought were going to be earmarked for the college football playoff that are no longer in contention at all, and some surprises in the top 10 and top 12. Ultimately, the top 12 is what matters at the end of the season here, and who's going to make their claim to be playoff bound or not, and that's kind of the goal where we are currently in the season and winning some big games. A lot of big games coming with only 4 weeks left really before we get into some conference championship, in college football playoff. So getting into it, it is Halloween, so happy Halloween. And we have a kind of a pivot on our program here, and that is we're going to lead it off with each of us have our scariest player, stadium, and mascot in college football. This is all time. So not just a season, this is all time. So I think we both have some good ones. Tyler, who's your scariest player of all time in college football?
Well, this is definitely a lot of players that you could say to this, just depending on what era that you grew up in college football, whether that was like the 80s and 90s, with whenever like Miami and Nebraska were the powerhouses. I'm going to go to the running back. I'm not going to go with the Leonard Fournettes and Derrick Henry's of the world. I'm trying to go off the grid here, a player that I don't think that many of our viewers would think that I would say as the scariest player. Now, build wise, he's not like the scariest player like Derrick Henry, like type of builds. Like you line up against him, you're like, oh shoot, he's coming towards me. But I'm gonna go with Darren McFadden, the running back of Arkansas. And this was one of my best like running backs growing up to watch. I know like every time that he was going to step on the field that you're going to at least get 100 yards for running. And when Arkansas was really good, especially during the Bobby Petrino days, Darren McFadden, you had Peyton Hillis right behind him. So you had that 1-2 punch. I just remember like the game that he really set himself up was that 3 overtime victory in 2007 against LSU when they won that. He had that baseball bat. And I just knew that man is a dog, and he's very scary. If I were any SEC linebacker, when you see Derek McFadden, once he got to open space, you couldn't catch him. You could say that with many running backs like Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, but I'm going to go with Derek McFadden being the scariest player, at least of my generation growing up.
Yeah, he was definitely a shifty back and a guy that was not afraid to run into somebody on the defensive side. You don't see that much anymore.
No.
We kind of lost that luster with people like Leonard Fournette and like you said,
I mean, you
Derrick
saw
Henry.
with Ginty a little bit last
Yeah,
season.
a little bit. You saw a little bit. Ground and pound. And Cam Scatterbu is probably the most recent.
That man's a horse.
The most recent example of somebody like that. For me, I'm going to go over on the defensive side. A lot of teams fear defense. I'm going to go back to a player that was playing when you and I weren't even alive, and that is, at least in college, that is, and that's Brian Bosworth. You want to talk about just a crazy individual on and off the field? I mean, a lot of storylines on and off the field for Brian Bosworth, and was just an absolute animal. So I have to, as a linebacker, 2 seasons, 2 All-Americans, 2 Dick Butkus awards. I mean, just insane athleticism, crazy strength and speed. We just don't see that anymore. It's just, you see so many linebackers now that are slim, trim, they're quick, but he was just a big individual and he was quick. Like that was the thing then was, big shoulder pads, big guys, he had the neck roll and everything with the neck pad and the shaved sides of his head and everything. So yeah, a lot of crazy, defenses back in the 80s and 90s, some crazy, scary players from that era too. So let's get into our scariest stadiums. I'll lead off with this one. My scariest stadium, to me, when I think of that, I think of night environment. I think places that have a lot of noise, but also teams that are really good at night at home. Teams that it's like, I really don't want to play there at night. For me, it's probably two. It's a tie with two. And that's probably Beaver Stadium with Penn State. Just that's crowd noise alone is just really, really tough environment. The other place I would fear, being an opponent on the road, is probably Autzen Stadium, Oregon. Really tough place to play. Hardly unbeatable at night at home. The same goes for both teams there, and it's just two places that are really, really tough to play in the past and currently.
Yeah, I tried to stay away in this category. It's like from the big name stadiums because obviously people are going to stay like Beaver Stadium in Death Valley of LSU. But I'm going to go to Auburn's Jordan Hare Stadium. Now, I know a lot of our viewers are going to say, well, why are you picking them when they're not very good? However, I just go back to that 2013 season, man. If you went to Jordan Hare, you were going to come out with a loss and something was like some voodoo was going to happen. There are just like so many game-winning plays that happen at that stadium. Like even during like Cam Newton's season, like that stadium, whenever Auburn is good, it's one of the most underrated environments, not only in the SEC, but in the country. Man, I just go back to the 2013. Like they had like back-to-back weeks. Like they beat Alabama on that kick six. They beat Georgia when it was like 4th and 25, and they needed like a tip drill touchdown that happened. It's just like weird crap goes down. Even last season, like Texas A&M, and then went to like 4 overtimes. It's like you never know what you're going to get. Like even the past Iron Bowls, the past couple of years, the Jalen Milroe touchdown to Isaiah Bond. You just don't know what you're going to get every single. Like even this year, we almost saw Georgia. They went almost down 17-0. They ended up coming back. But it's just a weird environment that you had to go into. The fans are rocking. It doesn't honestly matter if they have 3 wins, 4 wins, or they're undefeated. I think Jordan Hare Stadium is like just like a really scary environment to walk into because you don't know. Like you could be the number 1 overall team, and they would give you everything as possible, and the fans would be right behind you.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I mean, we've seen some crazy stuff in the Cam Newton era, and stuff happened there at Jordan Hare. So really good pick there. Let's get to our mascots. Tyler, lead it off with your scariest mascot in college football. That could be scary as in like scary cool, scary as in like, God, that's just a creepy looking mascot. So what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the scary, not so good here. I'm going to go to Stanford's Cardinals, the Stanford tree pretty much. I don't know who was in charge of making this tree, but my gosh, looks like a 2-year-old built this tree. I mean, the way that it just like, the way that it like shakes and swirls and dances, like just like the way that it was built, like the eyes, it just looks like an arts and craft project that went away. I know that there's some other mascots in Wichita State, even Mississippi Valley State mascot isn't too pleasant either. But I just feel like Stanford. I think that a lot of people joke on it, and I know myself. I've run some dynasties, not only in this previous college football game, but also when we had mascot mashup, it feels like everybody was rolling with Otto the Orange versus Stanford Cardinal. You just flipping around and stuff like that. So I think that was where like it first got started for me. But Stanford, it's a great mascot. It has a historic tradition. But if you like bring a child towards it, I feel like it wouldn't be so pleasant.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, creepy looking mascot. Yeah, like you said, art project gone wrong with something like that. It's a lot of history, I think, behind that.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not trying to disparage it at all.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of history behind the Stanford tree. But my mascot, I'm going to throw it over to the Big Ten. Just a creepy looking mascot. I'm sorry, but you got to think about something better than what you have, because what you have is a really creepy looking guy, and that is Purdue. Purdue takes the cake for me with the scariest mascot. You cannot tell me that this guy right there is not creepy. I mean, his eyes are just like, they're giant. He has giant eyes, and it's
you're just staring right into your soul.
Yeah, like through your soul, just like this plastic helmet looking thing with human arms holding a hammer. It doesn't scream Boilermaker to me. There's a lot of other options out there. It's just a creepy looking mascot to me. There's some other weird ones out there for sure. There are some really off the wall looking mascots. K-State with the cat head but the human arms looks kind of.
You could say Western Kentucky's mascot, but
sure. Well, Big Red, to me, Big Red is like iconic. Like he looks like Grimace from McDonald's, but just red, And but I think he's cool. It's just like there's some odd ones.
I think the two we said are definitely up there.
Yeah, the top 5 by far. There are definitely some that deserve to join that list as well. So with that being said, let's get that out of the way. Let's get to our rundown finally here, and let's get to our AP Top 25 risers and fallers per usual. Tyler, let's lead it off, man. What you got for your riser and faller for week number 10?
Yeah, I tell you what, there's been a lot of movement in this AP poll over the last couple of weeks. Like we mentioned, it feels like there's been a lot of parity. We continue to see like Indiana continue to rise, Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt. So it's just a crazy world that we live in. That NIL is really changing this, and we'll see if there's any playoff expansion here in the near future. But I'm going to start with my riser here. I know that I crapped on him last week's show, but they redeemed themselves, and that's going to be number 25, Memphis, getting a big victory against South Florida. I said on last week's show this felt like really the winner of this one is going to be set up, because I feel like the winner, whoever wins the American, more likely will be the representative here from the group of 5. Could be James Madison, depending on what they do. Do they run through the Sun Belt? I know the Sun Belt isn't as strong as it been in the past, but I'm going to go with Memphis, especially with the way that the rest of the American, you have a big-time matchup we'll get into between Navy and North Texas. South Florida, a team that a lot of people are very high on, feels like have now dropped off. So especially with Tulane losing last night on the road, it looks like this could just be a 3-horse race between Memphis, Navy, and North Texas. Faller for me, I'm going to go with a team that that I was never high on to begin with the season. This was a preseason top 10 team, and it was Illinois, who have now dropped off of the face of the planet, out of the top 25 after getting embarrassed on the road against a very solid Washington team. Washington only has 2 losses on the season. Damon Williams has been a fantastic quarterback for them. The problem for them has been the defense in some of these matchups, especially against Ohio State and Michigan. They were able to get their offense rolling. In Illinois, their playoff hopes are honestly dashed. I know that it's only 2 losses, but you still have to go on the road to a Penn State team. I know Penn State isn't where they were needed to be, but Penn State's going to upset somebody, I think, in the near future. I don't know if it's going to be this week. Who knows? Could it be over the next couple of weeks? But Illinois, a team that I never believed in. Once again, I'm going to go with them to be my faller.
Yeah, for me, I'll go with my riser first, kind of like you. I'm going to go with my riser. They are a team that was not in the top 25, unranked, fantastic record, best record out of the teams that kind of sit between that 18 through 25 spot right now. Still alive in the conference, believe it or not. And a lot of it has to do with their head coach, and what he's brought to the program in his short time there, and that is Houston. For me, Houston has been lights out. They've won, I believe, 6 in a row at this point, and 7-1 overall now. They currently sit at 22. I think they're in a fantastic spot for the Big 12. I mean, there are not many Big 12 teams above them. It's going to be a battle. I mean, those teams that are above them, the highest ranked in the top 25 is Texas Tech at 13. Below that, you got to go all the way down to Cincinnati at 17, and then it's them. They're at 22, so they still have a real legitimate shot to make it as well as they are playing. Transfer quarterback, Wegman came in and has done really well there. Head coach with Willie Fritz. Talk about just an absolute turnaround for him.
Yeah.
In his coaching career, going to a place like Houston and turning it into what it is right now. Fantastic job for them. I think they are proving people wrong with how well they are playing, especially as of late. I think there was a lot of question marks when they started the season. I mean, there's just you start the season 3-0, you go on the road, or I'm sorry, you're at home against Texas Tech, you're losing a big loss there. But aside from that, you took care of business. Your biggest win right now is on the road at Arizona State, a place that Arizona State does not lose. They do not lose at home. And you took it to them. I mean, and your defense played fantastic. So there's a lot of opportunity for them the rest of the way. You're at home against West Virginia, on the road at UCF, at home against TCU. It's a big game.
Yeah.
And then on the road against Baylor to finish it out. We live in no world of illusion that's very manageable for them to go 11-1 the rest of the way. So congrats to them for making the top 25 here, and I can only see them going up from here. My faller of the week, I'm going to go to the SEC. They dropped 5 spots, team that I was not high on to begin with. They found themselves in the top 10 earlier this year pretty consistently, and they have fallen off the last 2 weeks, or really last 3 weeks. They have struggled beyond belief out of the gate the rest of the way, and that is Oklahoma. Oklahoma was sitting at number 5 3 weeks ago, and they now find themselves at 18. So they have fallen quite a bit. Your loss to Texas is big in the Red River rivalry. That's a big loss there, and you got blown out. I mean, 23-6, in my opinion, is a blowout. You cannot score. You took care of business against South Carolina on the road, but you lost in a game that if your defense shows up, you win, and that is Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss's offense basically just ran you into the ground at that point. I get that you only lost by 8, but giving up 34 points at home and you only scoring 26 is not a very good look. And they just really haven't played well, I don't think, against teams in their conference for me. And teams on that level to view them as a top team in the SEC. They have the weapons there. They just haven't utilized them, I don't think, correctly in that scenario. And the rest of the way, buddy, good luck, because you're on the road at Tennessee this week in a game that we'll talk about. You're on the road at Bama. You're at home against Missouri, who's still hot. And you're going to be at home against LSU to finish your season. But, I mean, you may win one of those games the rest of the way. I mean, that's reality. I mean, you sit at a current record where you might finish the season at 7-5, and you started 3 weeks ago in the top 10, or at number 5. I'm sorry, 4 weeks ago. So a lot can happen in these conferences, as we've seen. And for me, they're my season faller out of everybody, in my opinion, with the expectation where they were just a month ago. So that's our risers and fallers there. Let's get into our games of the week. Week number 10, some big games going on. We talked about the American for a second there, Tyler, and in the rise of the American, and you and I both thinking that the American's going to be that G5 team that I think is going to get somebody in. And one of those teams is maybe one of these two teams that this game is a matchup for. So this is a huge game in week number 10 in the American. It's hard to believe. But that's where we sit, especially with the Tulane loss last night. So Navy, the midshipmen, they're headed over to North Texas, and that's going to be a tough game. Two teams that are pretty good. I mean, we're talking two offense-heavy teams, very different, though, I think, in how they approach the game. I want to get your thoughts, obviously, on how well Navy has played. And what North Texas needs to do to stop a red-hot Navy team.
Yeah, always trying to defend the triple option, no matter if you have coming off of a bye week or just 1 week of prep. It's always so hard, especially with Blake Horvath, the way that he has been playing. I mean, he's just really been sensational. And Navy has had a couple of games where it's been close, especially I just go back to that Temple game. They probably should have lost that game, but Navy turned it on in the fourth quarter. And they are now 7-0. North Texas, their one blemish is against the South Florida team that put up 63 on them. So the defense has not been good at all, but North Texas offense is one of the best in the American and even the country too. The way this offense has really been generating, I expect a ton of points. Navy's defense honestly has also been lacking too. They've been having to put up some points in the past couple of weeks to really get going. And Navy, this is one of their big first tests. They got North Texas and then a couple of weeks You'll have to go to South Bend and face off against a Notre Dame team that's still in the playoff hunt, even after starting 0-2. Because if you look at Notre Dame's schedule, it's going to be pretty easily the rest of the way there. So I expect a high score and shootout, but give me North Texas. I just don't think that they drop another home game here. South Florida, they were definitely riding high on the momentum, but North Texas, I just don't see how Navy's defense will be able to stop this high-powered offense that just put up like 55 against UTSA. Like they've been putting up at least 40 points a game the past couple of weeks. So this offense is just red hot. The line right here is 6.5. I expect this to really be a close game. I think that's going to be a lot of points. Give me North Texas like 41-38. I just don't think that both defenses are going to have too much to say about this game. You're going to see Blake Horvath really have a phenomenal game, but I'm going to go with North Texas winning this one by a field goal.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points, and let's get to those. And that first off being North Texas. North Texas's offense is fantastic. You are right in saying they're averaging over 40 points a game. They're averaging 46.1 per game, to be exact. They have been dynamite. They've had 49 touchdowns this year. They are not lacking getting to the end zone whatsoever this season. I do have concerns about Navy's defense as well, with how they've been playing. A 1-point win over Temple and a 3-point win over Air Force do not look good, even though you sit at 7-0. You're grinding wins out at that point. Your last dominant win was at Tulsa back in September. So it's been a little while. So, you're talking several weeks since you've had a comfortable win. Although you did get a 10-point win last week at home against FAU, where you gave up 32 points to an FAU team that really you had no business giving up that many points to FAU. I mean, they've struggled to score the football, in my opinion, most of the year. But let's look at the American standings. I mean, this with picking North Texas, like you've picked, you bring in a lot of players back into the race. A lot of teams back into the race, and that is Memphis at 25. South Florida is back in the race, and North Texas is in the race, along with Tulane. So you've brought those teams back in the race, and you've really made it tough. Navy gets a win, you are in the driver's seat. Mm-hmm. You are clear. You are 3 games clear of the next team behind you, and that's Memphis. So you really can pull away with a win here and get to 8-0. You're 6-0 in the conference. You really set yourself up for potentially being a playoff team when it comes down to it. That seems crazy to see a service academy, make it. I would love to see that happen. That would be fantastic. But that's a tough test this week on the road at North Texas. I agree with you. I think that North Texas probably wins this game, and the American gets a little bit of chaos and a little bit of turmoil. So I'm going to go with North Texas as well. I think it's a close game, like you said. I think it's a lot of points. I just feel that both teams can find ways to move the football around. Either defense really don't have defense, either team. So, yeah, I'll go with the big one, 45-42 type game. Take the over with points. It's going to be a big one. So, great game in the American conference. In a G5 game would be fantastic to see that. Let's go hop over to the SEC. Let's talk about a ranked matchup here. Oklahoma and Tennessee. This is a pretty big game in the grand scheme of things. If either of these teams probably want to stay in the top 25, they both need wins. And that can't happen. Unfortunately, only one team can win. And ultimately, I think the difference here is home field advantage is huge. Neyland will be a very difficult environment for Oklahoma to play. They struggled at home this year, so I don't have any confidence that they can get it done on the road. That's just my opinion. The line is 2.5 points in this game. To me, it feels like it should be a touchdown. The better ranking, same record, I get it. But Tennessee, to me, can score the football a lot more than Oklahoma can. I see this pretty lopsided, in my opinion. Just a team that I think is on the rise. They're close. I think they're really close. Joey Aguilar has been fantastic for Tennessee and has led the way for them. I think they get another big win here. Yeah, I think we're probably going to get probably 35-17 type game, I think, in this one. So I like the Vols pretty big.
All right. Yeah, this is definitely a big one, like you mentioned, with 2 losses for both teams. Whoever loses this is out of playoff contention, especially with Oklahoma. Like you mentioned, you brought up the schedule, the gauntlet they have. Tennessee sure has some tough games, but it feels like they have gone through like the meat of their schedule. This is like their final game. They'll have Florida on the road and then Vandy at home at the last week of the regular season. So both of those games outside that will be huge for Tennessee's chances. But I feel like if Tennessee does win this game, they'll feel pretty good about their chances of making this 12-team playoff when it's all said and done. But yeah, Oklahoma's defense has really fallen off a cliff after this undefeated start. Maybe it was just the teams that they played, and especially John Mateer. He missed only one game for Oklahoma. He had the bye week, and then he played in the Texas game, didn't play well whatsoever. They got their victory, like you mentioned, against South Carolina, but South Carolina has been one of the bottom feeders in the SEC this season. And then, they played strong against Ole Miss, but that defense couldn't really stop Trinidad Chambliss in a high-powered offense. And Tennessee is exactly like that. Joey Aguilar, just look at what they did against Kentucky. I know it's Kentucky, but still putting up 56 points against an SEC opponent is definitely nothing to scoff at. So Aguilar has really been nice. Chris Brazzell Jr. has been the alpha wide receiver one. Tennessee's defense has been abysmal. They haven't been able to stop anybody this season. So I think Oklahoma – on that sense, we're able to keep up with them, especially with their running back and Torrey Blaylock coming off of a 100-yard game. But like you mentioned, it's at home, it's at night. Tennessee's wearing the dark mode unis, and we know what happens when Tennessee's doing that. Their opponent's not going to come out with a win. I think you are going to see an Oklahoma team very desperate for a win. Like you mentioned, they're pretty much playing for their season at this point. Same with Tennessee. So both of these teams are really going to come out firing on all cylinders, but I just trust Tennessee's offense more at this point. John Mateer, I just don't think that he's still back to 100%. We'll see this week. But between the two defenses, just pick your poison at this point because both of them haven't really been too great. But I will take Tennessee to win this one. I'll say 31-24. I think you will see Tennessee's defense really step up, get a late interception for this one to be over. But give me the Vols at home to get this one done.
All right, let's get over to our last game and talk about our Big 12 matchup. It's a 9:15 kickoff, a late one, and of course, that includes a West Coast team.
Yep.
So West Coast, we'll call them,
right.
And that is Cincinnati's headed on the road. They're headed to face off against the Utah Utes. This is an interesting, intriguing game. I never would have thought in a million years that this would be a ranked matchup. 17 for Cincinnati and 24 for Utah. Looking at the grand scheme of things, Big 12, we kind of talked about it briefly. There's a lot of options there for both teams. Biggest factor is Utah doesn't lose at home, especially not at night.
They did lose, and when it was 11 a.m., they got their doors blown off of them.
Yeah, I mean they've had some tough ones. Losing to Texas Tech at home is rough, but Texas Tech is a really good football team, and that's a tough loss at home. That's your only loss at home, so far this year. And the rest of the way, it looks pretty inviting for them. So where they sit at 6-2 is not terrible. They're in an okay situation. They're still in the heat of the race, in my opinion. I'm happy to say that there are 5 teams in the Big 12 that are ranked. BYU and Cincinnati, they can run away with it, potentially. It really could come down to one game, and I think it might at the end of the year. That's the way this looks currently. Utah, to me, is more dominant at home. I love Cincinnati lately. They've been fantastic, but I just don't know if they can win on the road at Utah in a game like this. I think that's a tall task for that to happen. But, I mean, they're hot. That's the thing. I mean, they're on fire, and they've blown the doors off of the last 5 or 6 opponents. So you know what? Give it to me. I'm taking Cincinnati on the road at night in Utah. I think this is a huge win for that program. They get to 8-1, find themselves close to the top 15, inside the top 15 potentially, with how things shake out, and can really make a run for a Big 12 championship. And that seems insane at the start of the year to say, but where we sit now in Week 10, it looks possible. So give me the Bearcats to win it. I'll go. I think they're going to put up quite a few points. I'm going to go 38-31, and this one will be a close one, but I think they squeak it out.
Yeah, Cincinnati has definitely been a great story in the Big 12. It's just crazy how the Big 12 season started. Like, everybody was high on like the two teams playing in Ireland, Iowa State and Kansas State, and look at them now. Iowa State 5-3, Kansas State 4-4. So both of those teams not even in this discussion to be in the Big 12 title race. But man, like you mentioned, BYU, even Texas Tech, I know they had that one loss on the road to Arizona State. I still wouldn't count out the Red Raiders as a talented roster. Just look at the money that they spent in the transfer portal. But Cincinnati, I just go back to the opening game. How the hell did they lose to Nebraska, especially with the way they've been playing? I know that's been like Oklahoma State, Baylor, UCF, but they have really been consistently good, especially Sorsby, that quarterback. He has been one of the most underrated quarterbacks in all of college football. But like you mentioned, this is a tough environment. I'm honestly shocked at the line here. Utah getting 10.5 at home. I know it's a night game.
Yeah.
Utah feels like in these spots, but that's just a very disrespectful to Cincinnati. So they're going to be pissed off looking at that line. I'm sure their head coach has it plastered all along their walls. But I'm still not giving up on this Utah team. I'm trying to hold on for as much as I can. They were my preseason pick to win the conference. Will that happen? Who knows? They have some tough games the rest of the way. Like you mentioned, their two losses were a blowout loss at home to a very talented Texas Tech team, and then they lost to a BYU team that's one of the lone undefeated teams in the conference. This is a very tough one. I don't think Utah is going to blow them out, so Vegas giving them double digits there. But I just feel like Utah just doesn't get, blown out like they did again. They're going to learn from their mistakes. And Cincinnati, this is a very tough and physical football team. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of points as we're going to see in our other two matchups. I think that's going to go back to a grinded out game between Cincinnati and Utah. Wouldn't be surprised if we get like some weird score because Cincinnati has been involved in that. They beat UCF 20-11 a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to go like 23-16, something like that. But I'm going to go with Utah. But, boy, I would not be surprised if we are at midnight and Cincinnati has to leave because this has been a really good football team. Cincinnati wins this one. I really think that they are a lock the way their schedule sets up to be in the Big 12 championship. And it's just crazy that the Cincinnati team, has really been in the dumps after – their playoff appearance whenever Desmond Ridder was there. But this just like screams Utah here, especially with the spot. I just don't see them losing in this spot. It feels like every time Utah plays at night, they hardly get beat. So give me Utah, though. Even with Cincinnati, if they do lose this one, the season's not over for them because, like I mentioned, that one loss did come out of the conference, so they would only have one loss and still be in the race.
Yeah, I mean, the last two games we've talked about, the lines just feel off, in my opinion. So there's some good opportunity for both of those games there. Let's get into our best bets here, Tyler, speaking of lines and where they stand. I mean, I think there's a lot of good options out there for games, to talk about and discuss. Who do you got here for your best bets?
Yeah, so I'm going to lead it off with an over pick. I know that we haven't had really too many over-unders, but I'm going to go to Mississippi State and Arkansas. I know last week, hopefully you faded me because I told you to pick Arkansas money line, and that didn't happen. So just take a lot of points. I know that this is a big point margin here, 65.5. But if you were seeing two of the defenses the past couple of weeks, Mississippi State looks like they were going to control and just beat the doors off of Texas. They're up 38-17. Just like the past couple of games, this defense for State has really been off. Arkansas, the whole season, they haven't been able to stop anybody. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is like an 80-90 even point total. I can definitely see both of these teams get into the high 30s, maybe even low 40s. Wouldn't even be surprised if we get a 50s. The way of these are two talented offenses too, but it's just a lacking defense. So give me 65.5. And then for my second one, I'm going to go to the Big Ten, and I'm going to go with a very sneaky team that I don't think that a lot of people are talking about. They are 5-3. They are hosted in Michigan State. Give me Minnesota to cover that 3.5. Michigan State, just not a very good football team. Minnesota is going to take them to the cleaners. I think that they win this one by double digits, in my opinion. But give me Minnesota minus 3.5 there.
Yeah, I like both of those picks. Those are really good picks. I'm gonna hop over first. I'm gonna hop over to the Big 12. I like this matchup. I don't understand what's going on with it. Manhattan is not that tough of a place to play, in my opinion. I don't think there's enough respect on Texas Tech covering 7.5 on the road at K-State. K-State couldn't stop a leaky faucet at this point. And currently Texas Tech is playing some really good football. Give me Texas Tech to cover the 7.5. I think that's pretty much a lock at that point. The other one, I'm going to go a little wilder with this one. This is there. You can't make enough points, I don't think, for this game. Unfortunately, that's a 2:30 game. Notre Dame, who's number 12, they're headed to Boston College. It just seems like Boston College can't get out of their own way. They're 1-7. They're not playing very good. Notre Dame is a 30.5 right now. I don't think that's enough. I think it needs to be more. I think Notre Dame probably puts up 40-50 and wins this game by at least 35. So
it's also not the red bandana game that they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a crazy scenario. It's not the red bandana game, but no, it's just a game that I just don't see Boston College competing whatsoever, and it's kind of just a lackluster year for them. But I think there's a couple of pieces. You know, we've talked about head coaches and stuff to close out. We've talked about head coaches and some people that have obviously found their way out of programs, and some people that are potentially on the way out, you know, with some programs. You know, we've seen Brian Kelly go. We've seen James Franklin go. Franklin looks like there's a lot of talk between him and Virginia Tech behind the scenes, and potentially making a move there. And I know Tyler's been a big proponent of that to Virginia Tech, and seen that, especially with the history and where they are right now with coaching. My other one here is pretty wild. I think it's just the way they finished the season, and I think there's a short leash on SEC teams, and I think that this did not work out like he planned it to, and that's Brent Venables. If you lose the rest of the way, I'm sorry, but they're going to have no mercy for you in Oklahoma. It's just kind of you start the season good and you just fell apart, really. I mean, I understand that Mateer's hurt and Mateer, you know, is not healthy, but you got to go win football games, you know, and especially at home. I think there's a really short leash for that job. And there's a lot of good coaching candidates out there. Do I think that any of the people that have been let go are good enough for that program? No. I think they need to think about, you know, at the end of the year, I would not be surprised if Venables is let go from the Oklahoma team. And it's solely on lack of late season performance. You've got to be able to stick in there for 14 weeks and be locked in that whole time. That just hasn't been the case for them. You know, I mean, that's a big question mark for me. I don't know who else you think that really is on the hot seat and that needs to be worried about where they stand at the end of the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Venables, especially with the way that the season started. It feels like that. I mean, even last season they went like 6-6, but really saved him was the big wins down the stretch. You know, beating Alabama, getting that upset. You know, beating Texas too as well in the Red River rivalry last season. Well, they didn't beat them last season. Well, they played closer than this season though. But like you mentioned, if they lose this week and then they lose, so they have to go on the road to Alabama. If they don't even, honestly, they go like another 7-5, 6-6. If you have a candidate in mind, because you got to keep in mind, there's already like 3 big name jobs available. You got Penn State, you got Florida, you got LSU, and then you got some sneaky risers like Arkansas and Virginia Tech that are open. I think 2 other team or coaches to keep in mind is Hugh Freeze of Auburn. It feels like not only like when is this going to happen at this point, because it feels like it should have happened like last season, even earlier this season. he saved another week with that Arkansas win. They do have Kentucky this week. Boy, if they find a way to lose to Kentucky, he's going to be out. But it feels like at any point that Hugh Freeze is going to be gone. I'm going to go to the ACC for a second name. Mike Norvell definitely needs to be on the hot seat at this point because this is a team, even last season, coming off of a 2-10 season, which should never, ever happen at a program like Florida State. And then you get that big win open the season against Alabama, but what has Florida State done outside of that? Absolutely nothing. You got embarrassed on the road against a Stanford team that isn't good. And then you lost to a Virginia team that has soared up in the rankings, and then you got embarrassed at home against Miami. Like that's final score shouldn't have even been closer. So it doesn't get any easier the rest of the ACC. They got some really talented ACC teams the rest of the way. So if we see another, I don't even think he makes it to the end of the season. By the Florida game, he should be fired. I don't care if it's a $50 million buyout. You're seeing all these major programs take a chance on that with Penn State and LSU. So I think that, Mike Norvell and Hugh Freeze, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Those are the two next big names to be let go.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some other people too, like the Big Ten, I think really has some teams that really their coaches on the hot seat, one being Illinois, Brett Bielema. Enough has got to be enough at the point where, he's been there for so long and you've got to figure it out. You've got to. As a school, you've got to figure out what you're going to do because it's repetitive at this point, and that's the biggest issue is the repetition of the same thing over and over and over again. That's what gets people, pretty riled up within a school, within a program, is the way that you handle, season to season. Are you improving? Are you bringing people in? Are you doing this? And it's just not happening, especially with that program. They got good out the gates because of where they finished last year, kind of, and they really got a quick start on the season playing teams that were not very good. So I mean, that's kind of where they got to, and that was a big question mark. Obviously, you got to think about Bill O'Brien as well, with Boston College. He looks like he's on the way out. The way his demeanor is and his attitude currently, he knows he's on the way out. I think it's pretty obvious with where he stands there. And there's a lot of other coaches out there that need to probably think about it, where they stand. Think about where South Carolina was in their scenario. I love Shane Beamer. I do. And I think he's a fantastic coach. I really do. But and I understand the SEC is really tough, but you got to be able to win. And 3-5 is not safe anymore where you are currently. I mean, you're just not. If you can't get above 500 for the year, in a program that looks to be on the rise over the last few years, I get you took Alabama close, but you made late game mistakes, and there's situations that making mistakes like that just are not good. I mean, you played against a terrible LSU team on the road in turnover left and right, city, and you just couldn't pull it out. You can't lose games like that against bad teams. You need to be able to win those games. Lenore Sellers is a fantastic quarterback, but you've got to be able to win those games and win games that you're supposed to. Scoring 7 points against terrible teams is just not going to win the day, and it's not going to win you your job ultimately. 7 points against Oklahoma when you're playing at home is awful. 10 points on the road at LSU against a terrible LSU team is awful. 7 points at home against Vanderbilt. I get it's Vandy, but that's terrible. I mean, Vandy's where they are because of things like that and games like that. You really haven't blown the doors off of anybody this year at all. Your biggest win right now is Kentucky, and that's 12 points? Or I'm sorry, 22 points. I mean, that to me, you've got to be able to win games, and it's not going to get any easier. I mean, A&M next week. You got Coastal. Congratulations for that one. And you might lose that game. Coastal's 5-3, and they're not a bad football team. And then you've got Clemson to finish the season, and God only knows what can happen in that game. So it just, there's a lot of questions there, especially in the state of South Carolina. Dabo Swinney's another one. What is Dabo? What is Dabo's future if it's with Clemson or not? I mean, he's made it very apparent that he would go win somewhere else. Apparently, he thinks he's going to go win somewhere else. That's yet to be determined. I don't know. I think this offseason and late in this season, you're going to see some huge coaches drop. Like we've seen already. I think it started earlier than we expected, but I think you're going to see some even more big names drop out and be shuffled around. I think it's ultimately going to happen. So, I mean, you guys are going to have to stay tuned. It's going to be crazy the rest of the way to see on and off the field. I think this is the best off the field season as far as changes so far that have been made yet. So you guys will have to stay tuned. And we're going to bring it all to you guys and our thoughts on what these changes bring for these programs and ultimately who's going to be hoisting the college football playoff national championship trophy in January. So we'll bring it to you guys every week, and we'll see you guys again next week for week 11 and our breakdown and some huge games next week. We'll see you guys then.